Hi there, folks. Simon here. Welcome back to the 2023 Dragon Cup Tournament. This is the single elimination tournament that we started this year, and it has been a lot of fun. This is the semifinals between alion02 and Will. alion02 in white, Will in black. This is the semifinals, like I said. The winner goes on to face Abyss in the finals. And yes, you do recognize alion02's name. He is the current TAC champion. Will is up there in the, I think he's top 5 players right now. He's also the creator of potentially the strongest bot, Willem Bot. And yeah, he's a great player in his own right. So, some things that are a little bit different, you might be able to tell. This is not my usual setup, but it's very close. And that's because I was unable to watch this one. alion02 did record this for me, so I'm watching a recording that he made of it as a spectator. He did not watch this spectator view because that could give him insight into the spectator chat, but he said he didn't look at that, so that's fine. I believe it. Also, I think there's only like one message sent the whole time, so that is helpful. And with me along on the ride is rabbitboy84 to do some co-commentary with me because he also has not seen this game and this video.
Hey there, guys. Yeah, it's been hard not to look at the analysis channel or flip through this game. So I'm excited to see what these two have for us today.
I mean, you could have done that, and then you could have dropped in a bunch of like nice insight as opposed to my on-the-fly stuff.
Oh yeah, I could have sounded a lot smarter than I am.
Absolutely.
Let's kill this, and we'll retake in a few hours.
Yeah,
So what do you say?
I need to sound smarter than I am. Okay, so I think we're ready to jump in. Oh, these games are played on a 6x6 board, as you can tell, and they're played with 2 komi, meaning that Black gets 2 added to their flat count score at the end of the game if the game does not end in a road. They're also playing with 15 minutes on the clock with a 15-second increment, meaning 15 seconds gets added to their time after every turn. Also, one additional thing, at turn 35, they get 15 extra minutes added to their clock. So if the game lasts a long time, and it's going late and they get to move 35, they will get some extra time on there. And based on what I know of alion02, he will definitely be using that extra time. And these two players are both very strong, so I imagine they will hold out for quite a while, and it will likely go to flats just because, yeah, I think that's how it turns out with these two guys. But without any further ado whatsoever, let's jump right in to this one game match to see who makes it on to the finals. All right, so
All right,
we
try
see
again.
the A1 happen. And they do the
Oh,
hug.
and it is a hug. All right, and
And
this is rapid fire here. This is wow. Okay,
they're
not much
wasting no
commentary we can do
time.
there.
Yeah, I feel like these two guys have studied the hug more than anyone else in TAC, and they have used Willem Bot to do that and have memorized these opening lines. And I think it was the point where, oh, I know exactly where I'm going to place when this happens. And they both followed that line until this point. When Alien drops a cap here at D4, I think that's when Will's like, I don't know what to do here. And I
Yeah,
also
so
don't know why he would drop a cap there. So that,
it's a little
yeah.
bit unusual. I've been doing some study on the hug, and normally these caps will be in opposition. So you'd have the cap on B3 or C2, somewhere like that. So it is odd to see them kind of diagonal from each other in the center of the board.
I think it was just that he wants to have that capstone in center. And he knows that he wants to move the game a little bit farther to the right of the board because he knows black has a decent position there with the capstone there. So he wants to turn the focus of the game towards that right hand side so he can use that capstone better. And he's got a little bit of the momentum so he can force the direction that the game kind of goes and the part of the board that the game goes. And I think that's what he's looking at here, looking to do here.
And it looks like he already is. I mean, he's taking row 5, kind of going that direction. C4 is kind of a no man's land right now, with both caps being able to come over onto it.
Yeah, I think Black's trying to put some work into getting that vertical and horizontal going at the same time to try and cut off White. And I think that B4 flat is in a good spot right here to come up onto B5 and interrupt any sort of horizontal that White goes for here. So if White were to play at A5 or something like that, Black knows they've got that B4 in the pocket to come up and interrupt things, and they can kind of focus on their bit down below on the left hand side and on the bottom. So I think that works out for him. They are taking quite a bit of time now. They played the first bit very rapid fire. This one they're taking quite a bit more time. Okay, does drop the
Yeah,
A5.
yeah, kind of getting rid of any vertical potential for Black there and strengthening that thread along that row 5.
I think that would probably be the move that I would play here also. I would just drop at A5, trusting in my momentum to kind of keep me going and build up that area and cut things off from that vertical perspective that Black can go for there. I think that's probably the move I would go for. Um, as Black here, I'm not sure what the play exactly is, because if you decide to go for the horizontal and trust in your B4 to cut things off, then you're playing at D3, right? And then you're inviting the capstone to come down onto D3, and you're giving it more mobility. So instead, Black's playing over E3 to
Yeah, so you
keep the
you
capstone
skip
from
it.
coming down.
Yep. And then White immediately cuts off that potential vertical with E5 and expands their own horizontal up top.
Yeah.
So since White didn't play D3, then Black could take it here. Um, but they've got to be thinking about when they stop that threat on row 5, what do they do after that? Because it's most likely going to come with some sort of liability with D5 left, or, I mean, probably D5 left.
Yeah, I'm assuming D5 left would be the move there. Black dropping. Now, White does have momentum here, can play the capstone up, can play at F5. Either of those things would be the threat before Black can get anything down. I don't know that White wants to bring that capstone up. I think they want that central location. This is where they do drop at F5 because they don't want to move that capstone just yet. It's in a prime location
Yeah,
to cut off
much
Black.
yeah, much better to force Black to do something here.
And I'm seeing the... Yeah, and so this is where Black can make the threat now and force a move out of White, but I'm not sure if they're going to do that.
You really don't have a whole lot to lose if you do. You've bought yourself a tempo by moving D5 left, and then White just filled in. So you do have this turn to kind of make your own threat and potentially displace one of White's stones.
Oh, but he does go for the road threat. Drops at D3. White comes down with the capstone. Now, this is where you could see something like Black building here at C4. C4 works to protect that C5 stack a little bit. It also works to build for the horizontal and the vertical thread at the same time. It's overall just a really good spot to get something down in. But instead
Yeah,
he
there's
plays up
also
at
C6.
C6. I think that's also
C4 is still
smart.
protected by the capstone.
Yeah, it's protected by the capstone.
Um, and then if you played C4 previously, White would just take C6 and make a
A
make a
threat.
threat up on the row 5 again.
Exactly. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, c6 is the better play there for sure.
It's not as intuitive, but
It
it does
isn't,
work out better.
but yeah, it does work out better. Yeah, that's a good shot because even if white were to drop a wall at c4 to capture onto c5, black could still smash that. And smashing it wouldn't be that bad of a play either because it is still working for both the vertical and horizontal threats.
Right. And now we get to see how aggressive white wants to be. You could throw that D3 stack up to D5
Yep. Go for the
if you
threat that
really just
way.
wanted to be. Yeah. If I mean that would be a real kind of a bully move in this position.
It would, and I'm not sure how good of a move that would be because you would almost inevitably see 2c5 left. And if you saw 2c5 left, the capstone would likely throw all the way to b5 to get that big stack, and then you would see a wall drop on d5. But I think that that would still work out in white's favor overall.
So other options here, you could just simply place at C4, expecting the cap to come up and capture, and just think that you have enough flats on the board to maybe start building on the D column in hopes that you have enough at B1 and B3 to stop any kind of vertical by black there.
Yeah. Could also decide to drop at d4 and go for the vertical that way, um, or drop up at d6, so they could come over and capture onto c6, but also work for the vertical with d6 as well.
Yeah, you could even do something annoying like D5 over, D5 left.
I don't think you would see a d5 left here because that would invite the c6 down, and then if you want to keep anything going, you've got to do b5 right, and then that just invites a wall, and then you're on the losing end of that.
You are, but you've made black put a wall in the middle of their hopeful vertical.
Yeah, I
Not
don't
saying
know.
it's
It's
a
just
good plan, but
it feels like a
it is
Simmons
a
sort
threat
of
you can make.
play, and I don't think that that's a good play. You don't want to be doing a Simmons play here, and that's kind of what I would go for. I would say, oh yeah, I could force out this capture war and get black to drop a wall, and then get kind of trashed by this stack later on. But I'm not thinking about later on. I'm thinking about right now. But I do actually really like the capstone toss to d5. I think that's a fun move, and it's also net positive. And you know the sequence that's going to come out because almost it's almost forced. So you know what's going to happen. You know there's going to be a wall dropped on d5 after the 2c5 comes left, and you throw and all that. Okay, so we see the b6, not the d6, but the b6. And so he can
Okay,
do that same
I
move.
like D6 better, but only because it's more in line with where it looks like this game is going to go, which is white kind of moving towards their strength here, which is the D column, kind of
Yeah.
that vertical coming up there.
I like it too, and I think that we may be seeing something else happen. You may see white try to go for the vertical on the B. You might be seeing an A4 or B2, something like that, to get that working. Or you may be seeing white come up with that D3 capstone stack onto D4 to be able to throw left onto B4 later on, but also threaten in different ways. And so I think that there are some other situations here that white is potentially planning for. kind of going for this vertical on the left-hand side as opposed to the right hand. But we may also see white just also drop at d6 here on the next turn, which would give them a lot more stability here to make this threat. So if they drop d6 the next turn, captured left onto c6, then that's the threat, and then it causes a capture to happen on b5, and then you've got the b6 there to also capture onto b5 and kind of fortify it. So I see a lot of things that could happen with this. I did not expect to see that wall drop at d4 though, and that is a very defensive move here, but it might be necessary for black at this point. And black does have the two komi, so they have a little extra to work with in terms of flat count when they expect this game. I'm sure they both expect this game to go to flats.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so.
They play each other enough. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and they know that they're both good enough players that they're not going to be able to sneak a road or a tinny way past them unless it's particularly clever. And those situations don't always present themselves, and it's a little tougher to make those happen in a non-obvious way for someone as good as these two guys are.
Yeah, so this wall does pin the white cap from crushing
Hmm.
this turn, but it seems like that wall has to move in an upcoming turn. So I'm not sure how permanent of a fix this is.
And I think that
Because
the
white can still
obvious,
just play d6 and be fine.
yeah, and I think the obvious play here is that if white plays at a4 or b2, black is going to play the opposite. And so if they go for this vertical on the left-hand side, black's just going to play a flat in the opposite spot that counters it. And either of those works for black's own offensive plans as well. So I don't think that we're going to see white play it. And I'm proven wrong immediately. White drops at b2. And this is where I expected black to drop at a4 to keep that from happening.
Okay, my video must be frozen. I'm still seeing just the wall drop on d4.
Okay, yeah. So white dropped a flat at b2. And I thought it would be basically an immediate drop of a flat at a4, but I must be mistaken, since black's taking a little bit more time here. We do see Alion taking more time in general in this game so far. Will has been spending a little less time per turn, trying to build up that buffer for when he knows that things are going to get a lot trickier. A lot of times, right around that turn 35, when time is really low for one player or both players, is when the game is really starting to sort of change and shift and move around quite a bit, and so it'll be easier to spot those, I think. Instead, black plays at c4, which I find an interesting play because now white does immediately drop at a4, making that tack threat. Are you able to see that now?
No, so I've pulled up PTN Ninja. Finding the game here so I can get on the same page. Yeah, the video's just got a circle on it now. It's not playing for me.
All right, so now we did see the b4 minus play. So black has cut off that threat and made their own vertical tack threat here. And that stack on b3 is now sort of protected. Um, it is protected by that. So that's by that capstone at least. But then white immediately makes that b6 right move, ready to come down and capture yet again, which could be problematic.
All right, it looks like we're back. It said the stream had ended, but now.
Yeah, I rebooted
All right.
it.
Okay, seeing video again. Here we go. Yeah, so B3 is protected by the capstone, but now we do see that kind of counterattack threat up top.
I like it. I think it's a good. I think it's a good way to do this for sure.
So now you hide the stack behind the wall.
Yep.
Capstone's still pinned, and with the board set up the way it is currently, it's actually pinned after black takes that stack.
I like it. I think you would still drop. I think you would drop a flat here at d6 as white, and that's what Alion does. This continues, not renewing the threat, but it continues towards that threat and also keeps black from building that vertical yet again. And I think that black still probably wants to drop either a flat or a wall here at c5.
Yeah, that would handle two things. It would protect that stack, kind of doubly protect it on D5, and then also target that C6 stack.
Yep. And that pin on that d3 white capstone makes it so even if you do have to move, that wall up on d4, just can't make that happen. So he does drop the wall. I expected a flat, but I feel like the wall is probably a better play. Knowing that if white does drop at b6 or at e6, that wall can come up onto c6, recover that captured flat there, just make use of those liabilities that white's making with those flat on flat captures. Granted, I think that's the only flat on flat capture that white has made so far. Black has made 3, I think. So something to take
Yeah,
note
and
of for
then
sure.
yeah, so that would leave white a little bit ahead on reserves.
Also, fewer liabilities to take advantage of later on down the road for black. White does have more that they can play around with later on. If they can ever get a chance to capture on d5 with like a capstone or a wall or something, they can be able to spread that around. Maybe even at b3 as well. But black is doing a good job of making sure that these flat on flat captures they've made, these stacks, are well protected by walls or capstones. You'll notice that that d5 stack that is so juicy and that white definitely wants to grab, it's got 2 walls next to it. There's no way white's going to be able to grab that. And if they wanted to grab that, they would have to do it with a capstone. And if they try to do that, the capstone's pinned, so it can't feasibly do that. The B3 stack is guarded by a capstone. You're not going to be able to win a capture war on that or liberate those captives. You're going to be able to force some moves out, and that's likely going to happen eventually. We're probably going to be seeing a B2 plus flat on flat capture there to force that capstone to move to end this pin on this white capstone, so this capstone can get a little bit more mobility. But I don't know how long it's going to take for that to happen. Instead, we're seeing an E2 placed. This is so white can capture up onto E3 and end the pin in a different way.
It also works towards that bottom horizontal and
And
blocks black's kind of going around
yeah, and it also works
that they
towards
could have
white's
potentially worked
vertical
towards.
on the right-hand side as well.
And that's something that's really hard to wrap your head around sometimes, especially in the middle of the game, is deciding whether or not to continue a threat. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, white could have placed e6 B6, something to keep that tension going up top. But then you have to think, where do you go from that? And what are you inviting your opponent to do? Either of those placements just kind of invites that wall up from
Yeah.
C5
And I
and
think
and
that play at
puts
E2
puts you behind.
is particularly strong and a great example of this sort of high level play that we see from alion02 and other top players. Because this flat at E2, number one, I would never play that move. Probably. I'd probably continue the stuff up at the top and then kind of figure my way out after a couple moves. But Allion is saying, I know what's going to happen up top if I continue that. But if I drop a flat at E2, that works towards me playing for a vertical later on. And if I play at E6, that works towards the vertical and that horizontal at the top. If I play at E2, I can also work for this horizontal down here at the bottom. I can also cut off black's ability to go around this capstone. I can do all these things with this flat at E2, but it's not an obvious move to make. It's not super intuitive because it just feels so out there. It's so away from a lot of the action. It doesn't do a lot immediately, but it sets things up for 3, 4, 5 moves down the road.
And that E2 placement is going to inform black's next move as well. So are we going to see something like C2 kind of right in the middle of the board, in the middle of that potential horizontal for white? Or the faster move, I guess, would be A2. Also blocks some of white's horizontal and gets black closer to that vertical.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things here. None of it's going to be super easy for black to make a threat with. Black playing at A2, but I feel like that's less for their own vertical and more for making sure white can't eventually build for their own horizontal over there.
So if white's horizontal has been blocked, then they probably go back towards building this vertical. Um, Something along the bottom, E1 or E4.
Yeah, and with komi in mind, white is up by 1 flat right now. Though after black plays, if they drop another flat, it'll be even yet again with 11-11. Now, white dropping here at E1, this is sort of half committing towards that vertical on the right-hand side. Now, this is, I was expecting an E4 and then immediately an F4, and that's exactly what happens. Likely an F2 at some point from either player. That way, white can toss that capstone. If it's an F2 from white, white can toss the capstone to F3 to make that connection.
Yeah, so here's where you get sneaky. One reason that you can choose to not keep pushing a threat is so that you can draw your opponent's attention somewhere else on the board and then make that threat. It it won't work in this game, but it's still a form of pressure that you can apply. So if white were to place at E6 next, then it's much stronger now because because you built up this vertical to kind of jump over onto.
Yeah, I would personally drop at F2 before dropping at E6 so that you could get the vertical and horizontal at the same time.
Yeah, if black lets you get
For
that
sure.
time to do it.
I would go for that because I know that it's way easier to defend these one at a time. And if I can manage to get them both, that's what I would go for. Granted, both of these players are going to see through that right away. They're going to see that as a possibility. And I was talking earlier about how Will had a bit more time, I think a minute and a half more time than Alion did. But now it's looking like Alion is 2 minutes ahead. And black does drop at f2 to keep white from doing that. Now that
So
f2's been
something
dropped, I can
we,
see the e6 play.
yeah, and something we hadn't mentioned. Now that black has made this connection all the way across, especially with that e4, e3, if they were to self-capture with that wall on d4, d4 plus, it is attack threat. So in the future, that could be something they consider
For sure.
as a safe move. Of course, no longer.
No longer. And now we've got the capstone over here. No tack threat right now, but white's setting up to be able to drop at e6 to make the dual threat, to make the horizontal along the top and the vertical over there with the f4 left play. Black would not be making a poor move to drop up at e6.
No, you can play at e6. You could go ahead and capture that stack on c6 so that it's not a dual threat.
Yep. Yeah, those both look like good options right here. Does capture up.
So now that puts black closer to a road on their side. And then if white were to play e6, throwing that wall stack on c6 over is another threat by placing it c5.
Yep. It's a
White can
good
just place
spot.
it f6 instead, which might be what they do. It's a pretty strong threat.
Yeah, you do still have that f2 though. That f2 comes left and then it cuts a lot off. It gets back some momentum. There's no immediate refresh of that threat. No renewal. It's a tough spot to be in for white. Actually, I feel like black looks better here.
Trying to think as white what you do after this turn. So let's say you do e6 or f6 to draw something out. Then I'm guessing a c5 wall is coming next.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the f6 feels like the play for white here, because then you won't get that wall able to interrupt it. Does go for the f6. Now black needs to do something like f2 left, and then, like you said, a wall at c5 is probably going to be the play. And honestly, I feel like if a wall at c5 happens, that d4 wall could come up for the self-capture. Oh, we didn't see.
Yeah,
We
protect.
saw
Oh,
f3 plus instead.
okay. Not,
Unexpected.
yeah. Maybe they're saving that to try and take c5 for themselves so that they can have a drawbridge threat.
Yeah.
But white can just renew here. Um, Cap stack up or slow play it and just play f3. But that leaves the drawbridge threat open. Then you have to flat on flat capture to defend over on the
Yeah.
left half of the board.
You could also do e5 minus. That would be a threat. And if it baited that d4 wall to the right, you could smash it without losing. and get your capstone more
You
in the game over
could,
there. You
you
would
could
really have
without
to
losing.
focus on
Yeah.
you'd have to focus on that top part because you would have been abandoning your bottom bit, and then that would have yeah, that bottom part of the board would just be way too strong for black after that. So that's probably a really bad play.
Yeah, you would lose E2 and E1
Yeah.
probably immediately.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't think it's 10U, so you can't ignore that.
Does come up with the cap. You could see a flat or a wall here drop at E3. I think a flat because he wants to be sure that he's not fallen too far behind on those. Does go for a wall though. Really wants to lock in black with that big stack of black flats underneath it.
Yeah, so here's white. Do you drop a wall at C5?
I think you absolutely do.
You put a flat at C5. I mean, make the empty threat, but force black to do something about it.
I mean, if what the black play is going to be 2c6 to the right, right? And when that's going to cut off a flat and cut off the threat and make their own, I think that you got to drop a wall here. But he doesn't even touch it. He drops a flat at f1. He must be
I
confident in
lost
his
video.
ability to stop this. He's got
Lost video
b2
again.
left. He's got b2 left. Okay, so the c5
Okay,
has been
F1.
dropped.
Yeah, that was odd. Yeah, C5. I mean, that's a no-brainer play right there.
I am surprised to see a b1 left as opposed to a b2 left, though. Now, c2 doesn't seem bad here for black, and that's exactly what he plays.
Yeah, I would play C2, march on down, as well as keeping a little bit of horizontal going.
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't looking great for white. Black's looking pretty good here.
I think we're going to see a white wall here pretty soon. I don't think flats are enough to stop this on B1, C1 area.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I think you're right. I think a wall is going to be necessary.
I don't think I would have had the guts to play F1. I would I would have put a wall on C5
Yeah,
as white.
there had to have been some sort of trap that he was looking at up there that isn't working out now, otherwise you would have already played a move. And we see the time advantage is swapped yet again, almost 2 minutes now, an advantage for Will.
And getting down close to just 2 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, that range of 2 minutes on the clock is panic mode for me at least. I mean, 5 minutes on the clock is panic mode for me, but I know that once you get down below 1 minute, that's turned the pressure up pretty high for
Yeah, I
pretty
think
much
15
everybody.
minutes on the clock is my panic mode. So
That's true. You're not great under time pressure.
no, not at all.
I think that's the only time I've ever been able to snag a win off you is when you were losing to time. Ooh, we see the
Okay.
capstone come right.
Okay, so apparently white is confident that they can shut down this threat with just the flats on the board.
Guess so. I mean, you got to drop it C1 here, right?
It's the strongest move. I mean,
But that B2 flat is able to come over onto C2 and cut that off. So, yeah, I think White has calculated it that he's got time to do this, but I am still pretty surprised by it.
Yeah, I mean, black could even do 2c6 right for the threat. It doesn't drop a flat, but it might be a little easier to renew the threat afterward.
Yeah, so he goes for the C1.
Okay. So I mean, we
Here's,
have to see b2 right.
yep, and
There's
that's what
no other.
happens. Now, what's his response? Because he had to know this was coming.
I like b1.
Um, yeah, B1's not bad.
b2, yeah, I mean b2 is the infill, but b1 sets up, if you do move that wall stack off of c6, it sets up both a placement at b2 and capturing onto a1. So it's a stronger threat. It's a
Yeah,
weaker it's a weaker stone placement, I guess, but a stronger threat next turn.
I agree with you on that one. Black does play at B2. I think that
And
maybe he just really
now
wanted to build that
we've got to see a
citadel.
wall.
Yeah, wall's got to
We've
drop
got to see
now.
either a threat and let that peter out, and then a wall, or just a straight up wall. And I guess that would be at b4.
Yeah, B4 works for that. Or, as it's not attack threat, you bring that big white capstone stack up to F5.
Okay, so yeah, okay, white
Oh,
pushes. All right.
he pushes for his own threat. He's saying, you know what, we've got this. I'm going to force you to make a move here. And it's going to be that wall from E3 down to E2.
Yeah, that's the only move, right?
Yeah. I mean, he can toss that D5 stack, right? But that's, yeah, it's nothing
Yeah,
more than
yeah.
a delay.
The only.
The only real move for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So now white can trap their cap if they go down to F2, or they can do F1 plus if they really want to push things, or they can defend like SB4.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by that move. Maybe White's just trying to push things so that they can get to that turn 35 to get more time on the clock because they are now down to 40 seconds.
Okay. Wow.
Because if you can force some moves that you know have delaying moves or a sequence of forced moves that isn't going to get you in trouble, you can just play those to get yourself, up on some increment and then get to that move 35 so you can get that extra 15 minutes on the clock. And that may be what he's doing here. And maybe he's forcing another wall out of black here. Now, black can take that wall and capture over onto F2 right now. That's
Yeah,
not
it's
bad at
pinned.
all. It's pinned because if he smashes, that black stack on F3 spreads.
It's pinned, but it's not. I mean, white can still make threats here.
Yeah, he can drop it E2.
E3
Yeah, it
is
drops
either
it
a
E3.
placement, or if black doesn't see it, which they will, it's a sneaky threat from C2.
Yeah, the C2 throw. That's probably what he's trying to do. He's low on time. If Will were low on time, that might actually work.
Also, something you don't want to do is you don't want to place a flat right in the path of your opponent's FCD move. So if he had placed it E2 here, that F2 wall just comes over and
Exactly.
you basically get a free flat.
For sure. And if this weren't a threat by placing at E2, this would be the perfect time for black to capture over onto C2, as that would be Tinue, if I'm not mistaken. So uh, definitely needed to
Yeah,
do that.
so
That was a forced move for black for sure. White's got to do something to keep this from being Tinue.
yes, white is out of threats that stop
And
this
there's
side
the
of the.
wall on
Okay, there
B4
it
that you were
is.
talking
Yeah.
about earlier. That shuts him down.
So now the question is, do you just keep pushing?
Black keeps pushing, plays down at B1 now. He's trying to run his reserves lower.
Which he is lower than white currently.
Yep. Now black may just decide to fill in here at B4.
Probably crush that wall.
You think crush at C4?
I mean, the black cap is kind of it's not out of the game, but it's a little hefty over there, a little chunky sitting on the edge.
It it hasn't, the black cap has not moved since it was placed on turn 2. It was placed on turn 2 and has not moved since. There it is. It took 28 turns for that capstone to move, and it does smash that wall.
Okay, and an immediate renewal there.
Now, does black drop a flat here? Do they bring that wall stack over on C6 to the right? I think the flat, I think a flat at C3 isn't bad here.
You're giving white B2 and B1 would be the biggest problem with letting that wall live.
Well, if you drop a flat at C3 and white comes down with the wall, do you just do B2 right?
Probably.
That way it keeps that away from the wall. White would either have to move that wall to the right and block you off or drop a new wall there. Yeah, so that immediate play, there was no hesitation there.
Yeah.
Now black is lower on time, down below that 1 minute mark. Now, is this where we see B2 right happen to renew that threat? Um, no, we see a B6 played. That is very surprising. But we are on turn 32. They only have 4 more turns to go before they each get 15 extra minutes added to their time, but they're both below 1 minute on the clock, so this is going to be a hectic point of the game for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what B6 gets you.
And it looks like black is up by 2 flats right now. Granted, white does have a +3 move available, so that could even things out.
Yeah, because doing the B2 over prevented that +3 move and made a fairly strong threat. So I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, and now we've got the +3 move happens. That road threat is no longer easily renewable. Black cannot take that E2 wall to spread left onto C2 to renew anything because he's otherwise would lead to a road there. So he's got to drop yet another wall in order to liberate those captives. He's got 4 walls on the board right now. Interesting play with the F1 here.
Could be trying to force yet another wall. If you move the cap stack down, forces a wall on
Yeah,
F3.
it does, but then you're resigning yourself to not having a capstone for the rest of the game.
But pretty much has already.
Actually, no, you're not, because if you bring that cap down, you're also threatening to smash on E2. And if you get black to drop a wall at F3, you can freely smash on E2. Oh, so he sees that. He spots the sequence, drops yet another wall. That's wall number 5. There's the capture and another wall, wall number 6.
And another
6
wall.
walls.
And unlike the time before, that wall was pretty much forced.
Yep.
Before black was able to capture onto F2,
You know how I
but now we
said
have that
that
E3 flat.
that black was ahead on flats? That is not
Yeah,
even
no
remotely the
longer.
case
They
anymore.
they can't be. I haven't counted, but see where we are
So it's 14 to 9 at the moment.
with
Sorry,
Comey, right?
14 to 10 with Comey. Yeah. Sorry, I miscounted. 14 to 10 with Comey. No, I was right. 14 to
No,
9.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a huge advantage. 5 flat counts. Black has 1+2 move, 2+2 moves. Just 2+2 moves. So not enough to overcome that 5 flat count advantage that white has right now. Not only is it a 5 flat count advantage, but it's just strong in general. Okay, this is where white might do a self capture with that wall on B3 down to B2.
I don't think there's a reason to. The flat count differential is a little bit too much. You can just place something somewhere and kind of let black have that.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, and Alien does not like zero FCD moves or negative FCD moves, and that's what it would be, a -1.
You could even place it D2 here to kind of force black to choose one or the other. They can't have both with that flat spread on C2 or that wall spread.
Yeah. And dropping at D2 would also work towards your vertical playing around that E2 wall.
Yeah, and especially if as you wait, board fills up, you just kind of can make some of those sneakier last minute threats,
Yeah.
especially if you're ahead on flat count.
And it is important to note that the last turn they did get that extra 15 minutes, so they're no longer under time crunch.
All right, so white taking a breather here, counting about half a dozen times and figuring out what they want to do. So if we look at safe places to play, if you're not even looking for road threats anymore, just looking to hide from FCD moves, you've got D1, possibly D2, D3,
I think D1, D3.
A6. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, A6. I mean, it's a it's a very safe play. It's away
Yep.
from the any of the spreads.
Also, okay, and now this is where you might see that wall come right, and it does. It comes right onto C3. Breaks that up.
But with that B1 wall, there's unlike the sequence we saw earlier where we were thinking, B2 over and then you bring that cap down to smash. Um, there's not much point in black smashing this one because you have a B1 wall there.
Yeah. And that stack on B2 doesn't have anywhere to spread to make a positive flat on differential move, really. It'd just be the same as dropping a flat,
Right.
and you'd want to do that more. Black is lower on reserves, so it's easier for them to decide when this game ends. However, white is ahead enough on flats that I don't think that's going to matter. Interesting play dropping the wall down. I guess they don't want white to be able to smash their own wall on C3 for whatever reason. That's the only thing I can think of why they would do that.
Yeah, but it just gets an infill right behind it. I'm not sure what black can do here.
Yeah, 13 flats for white, 9 for black. So better than before. Now they're only 4 down as opposed to 5, but it's still in a really, really
They
rocky position for him. When I felt like earlier on in the game, it seemed like black was doing really, really well, but Allian has really turned this one around.
Black does have 2+2 moves, right?
Yep. 2+2 moves.
You've got C4 and C6 both able to do something, but they can't target anything else in the process, and they can't make tack threats along with those moves.
And so
So
they end up
they're
not being super
kind
great.
of yeah, they're of kind of limited use when the differential is what, 5 now.
Yeah. And black does have the opportunity to be able to use some of those walls, like that D4 wall. They can bring it up and then throw right for a +3 move, which is just essentially because of the 2 move sequence, it ends up being a +2. But I don't think that's gonna be able to help them enough. I think if they wanted to do that, they would have to do it like now. And then trust for the other +2 moves to save him in flat count. But yeah, they would need to have a D4 plus in order to have a chance flat wise, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's enough time. I think you run out of steam after that.
Yeah.
Now white looks like they might want D2 here, in case there is any flat count issues. Yeah, so black takes it. You could potentially take E1 left for a sneaky threat,
Yeah.
but black places D2 to prevent that. Black down to 3 flats here, so we're closing in on it.
Yeah, black's got to make a move here really soon. I think it's that D4 plus move they've got to make. But I'm not even sure if that would be enough. It's hard to track that. Because you get the +2 with the C4 capstone coming left. You get the +2 with the C6 wall coming right. And if you use the D4 plus and then that coming right for a +3, which ends up being +2 because you made a -1 first. I don't know. I'm not sure how that plays out.
I think we're getting close to board fill here too, so
Yeah, there's only 3 open spots. White might want to play. They won't want to play at E6 because that helps that gives a better flat count move for black.
so do the other two placements.
Yeah, I think the best one is B3. And I say that because B3, yes, allows a +2 from the B2 play, but it doesn't allow a +3 move like the other ones would.
Yeah, it also doesn't help black out very much otherwise. They don't
Hmm.
gain a whole lot of positioning from that.
Ooh, interestingly, that I'm seeing a sequence here for black if they're able to get it. If they can do 3 C6 right 1 2 and then smash their own D4 wall, that's potentially a winning sequence if they can get to that before losing.
It's winning if they can do it before losing.
Exactly. That because that seems like if you can pull that off, I think that's Tinue.
Yeah, your weakness would be D5, which is covered by C5. D3 minus.
Oh yeah, good point. D3 minus does do that. Yeah,
And C2 over, and then you throw the B1 wall over or something like that. So I think it would be close. I mean, you would probably attempt it.
I probably would. I mean, especially
And
here when it
honestly,
feels like
yeah,
I've lost, I would definitely go for that.
sometimes that's your only choice is to introduce some chaos.
That's that's kind of my ploy on every move. But Will has a pretty fantastic time right now. For those of us who interneted in the 90s. And other people will be like, I have no idea what he's talking about. But that's fine. That was for me. Alion is taking a lot of time here, but he's got plenty of time here. They're on move 40. He's got 8 minutes on the clock. This is very close to done with. Black's got 3 reserves left. White has 5 reserves left. There's 3 open spots on the board. Like, this is next to done. Alion just wants to make sure that he's not giving anything up. I think that the way to do it would be B3 here, simply because it forces more turns out of
Ooh,
your opponent to do that, but he instead plays a D6.
not B3.
And this not only sets Black up for a really good flat count move, but it also works towards that same sequence that I was talking about where you smash your own wall at D4 after that 3C6 right 1-2 move. And yes, we're talking about positive flat count differential moves, which these +2 and +3 move things might be confusing if you're unfamiliar with that. That concept is talked about in the FCD or flat count differential video of TAC University. I probably should have plugged that an hour ago when when we first started mentioning them, but yeah, you can figure that out from that video for sure, and all the other TAC University videos, which are very helpful in all of the things that we talked about, whether it be openings like the hug that we mentioned at the very beginning, captures, walls, all of those very important concepts. Momentum. I've got a video on everything, don't I? I do. I really do.
I believe so. Yeah. Hey, and he wrote a book too.
You wrote a book. You wrote 2 books.
So did you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but my book isn't about tech. You wrote 2 books about tech. Yeah. In addition to being a really good player, rabbitboy84 happens to be the author of Mastering Tech Level 1 and Mastering Tech Level 2. This is another thing we should have put at the very beginning, but did not. So go check those books
It
out.
can be like the end credit, reward for watching the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. This is like the outtakes. Another 90s reference that they don't do anymore. Um,
I mean, Black has to take here, right? Spread the wall. I mean, I know that they have what 11 minutes on the clock, but
I mean,
I
it's
mean
got
that
to be
just
the
seems
move.
like
You've got a +3 move. You take it. And also, it sets up, like I said, the not quite Tenue sequence.
I mean, I guess you could end the game right now if you wanted, spread that wall stack up on B2 and give the game to Alion, but
You could.
I,
You
I don't
could.
think that's what we're doing here.
I don't think he wants to do that. He does make the move. What's
Okay.
White's? I mean, White had to know that was going to be the play. Had to know. Surprised it's taking him long to make this response move. Maybe he got up to get a snack.
Yeah, now now black or yeah, black is closer to being able to end this game. So white would want to place somewhere here. We
You think
already
they're going
talked
to
about
drop at
B3,
c6 again?
B4.
Because c6 is now the safest spot to drop.
Yeah, it is. Uh, okay, so if we go with that, flat or a wall.
You go for flat since you're wanting to maintain that flat lead.
But you do have juicy stuff on D5 and D6.
Yeah, I think you just want to drop flats, try and get this to a board fill as quick as you can. Oh, he drops the wall though. He's secure enough in his flat lead.
Okay, so where are we flat wise? We
White's
are
got 13.
13 to 10, 13 to 12
Yeah,
with
so
Komi.
only up by one. Black
Okay,
can
so
win
black
this on flats.
black can't place though.
No, black has to make the +2 move.
Yeah, black has to make some sort of capture here.
Yeah, the +2 move they've got is the c4 play. So 3c4 left, 1 2, which is portable tack notation, as you see off to the left-hand side of the screen. And that's how we describe
Hey, that's
moves.
another video.
It is another video in Tack University. How convenient that all of these principles that we mention in these commentary videos happen to have videos about them themselves. So convenient. Who thought that up?
As if someone planned it.
Almost as if someone planned it. It's not actually how that happened. I started doing commentary videos and started realizing that I'm talking about stuff people wouldn't know. So then I had to make the videos afterwards for the Tech University.
So yeah, I really like that C4 left.
I think that's got to be the moves you play. If you want to have any sort of chance at winning this in flats, you got to make that move. You can make the smash on d4 to go for the threat, but you will force that wall on c6 to come right onto d6 and then be threatening to come down onto d5 to recover those flats that it wants to do anyway. So I think you've got to make the c4 left spread. I know I was a big advocate of smashing on d4 before, but it doesn't work
But that
anymore
that
with
was
that
before
wall
there was a
there.
wall there.
Yeah, with the wall there, it doesn't work. They're really pushing this game to the limits with time. I know in
Yeah, I
my
played some league games over the past couple weeks, and man, the 10 plus 10 plus 10 is just brutal time control for me.
I bet. I think
The
30 plus
Dragon Cup
30 plus
was
30 is
quite
hard for
nice.
you.
Well, yeah, yeah. Async is hard for me.
But yeah,
But this the time control for the Dragon Cup felt like it was nice.
Yeah, I had a hard time with some of the games with how long they get. Not specifically with Dragon Cup because I didn't have very long games with those, but in the 7x7 Open when I played against Alion, our game lasted I think an hour and a half long. And it got to the point where I was just like I just want to lose so I can be done because I am so tired. Like I can go an
Just
hour, but if you get to
just
like an
mentally
hour 10,
spent.
hour 20, something like that, I'm like I just can't do this anymore. Like I'm toast. And that makes things hard. And I feel bad because I had a game against Abyss in the Dragon Cup, this very one, in the quarterfinals, I think, where I played Abyss and I had to leave partway through the game where I had a meeting starting and the game went longer than I expected and it was like an hour plus into the game and I was like I gotta go, so I'm just gonna forfeit. And I felt bad about, I mean, he was gonna win anyway, I'm sure, because he's Abyss, he's in the finals of this right now, and he was in a better position. But I did feel bad of robbing him of a good end game there. But I did have to leave just because I did not plan for an hour and a half game, and I had a work meeting that I needed to get to. But that is a thing that can happen in these games. They can run quite long, and we've been talking about how games run long for a few minutes now, and Will has still not taken his turn. So he is proving us right.
So what is Black considering here?
Black's considering throwing left with c4. Black's also considering smashing on d4. I'm sure those are his only two for only two immediate moves that he's considering at this moment. He's probably going down different branches of how those end up, and that's where he's taking his time. But he's considering two specific moves. I can't think of anything else that Black would want to do here besides those two things. Because he can't drop a
I've
flat
got
because that leads to a loss.
I've got PTN Ninja open here, and right now looking at 4B2 plus 112.
4b2 plus 112. So spreading that wall stack up and
And giving yourself a
whoa,
+3 move with C4 the next turn.
he made neither of the moves I was considering. He instead captured left. I guess he's saying, I want you to place at e6 again so I can get another +3 move. What? And he does.
Okay.
What? Is white trying to be able to smash at f6 or something? I have no idea what could be the point of this. Why filling it at e6 is the move here? Because black can now get a +3 off that.
I guess he's just running out flats. I mean, now he's ahead
White's down on the
on
plus
reserves.
on the two reserve magic number where you feel like you
Yep.
can have control of this game when you're at two reserves.
So now white has to kind of scour this board and find a way to come ahead.
I feel like dropping at e6 was just like almost like a resignation.
It's it's odd.
Now, do you smash here? I feel like that had to have been his plan. Because why else would you allow those 2+3 moves to happen?
Well, I don't think smashing gets you anywhere. You just leave black in more control because you can't make a threat with your smash.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't do anything. What is White's plan? White's at 12, and
And
Black's at
black's at
12.
12.
And Black has a +2 move. White has no +2 moves.
And white cannot place at d6.
Why not?
Well, I mean, they can place at d6, but it gains them nothing.
Mm-hmm. Does White capture down with C6 to be able to go for D5? I'm at a loss here. Why did that sequence happen? White dropping at E6 just felt like an absolute blunder. I have no idea what's going on.
I mean, was it meant to be a wall?
Maybe. That would make a lot of sense, to be honest. But he dropped it so fast. Like, it was an immediate play. As soon as that self capture happened, he was like, E6, got this. And yeah, it was weird.
B3 and B4 are both problematic because
Yeah,
they give black a +2 move.
D6 is the least problematic of all the moves. I mean, B4 gives black a +3 instead of a +2. B3 gives black an additional +2 where they previously didn't have one. Yeah, this is a really tough spot now for white. Whereas they seemed so in control a moment ago. And now white's down
Okay.
to 2.5 minutes. It's getting crunch time for time.
And Aliana said many times that he doesn't want to go under two flats unless he's sure he can win.
Yep,
Because you run into all sorts of problems when you're down to a single flat if you don't have a crushing lead.
absolutely.
Because then you can't place a wall to block threats. You just run into material shortage issues.
It's a tough spot to be
So
in.
maybe he's looking at a capture.
I think he's got to be thinking C6 minus here. And if he does C6 minus, does black smash?
I almost think you don't have to. You just play c6 again. I mean, you can give black that stack, or you can give white that d5 stack at this point. It really
Why?
can't do a lot of damage. It just doesn't have any black flats to spread over.
That's true. Alion is down below a minute on the clock. What magic are they coming up with to get out of this?
I think he's got to be looking at a capture now. Um,
Captures left, or captures down with A4. Why?
get it out of line of sight of c4. Black no longer has that +2 move,
That's true.
but black can just recapture.
Yes. But then that white wall can spread left onto it, right?
Yeah, it can. Leaves a flat behind.
Does recapture. And now he has
And the
another
video
plus
went out
two
again.
move. So it's 12-11 on flats in favor of white. White has one flat to go. And white wins. Because if black spreads that up onto a5, white ultimately wins the capture war and then plays their final flat and wins. That is miraculous.
And if they spread down, they lose it to the B1 wall.
Yep. Miraculous. That was excellently played and down to the wire as well. That is wild.
I thought black had it there for a minute.
I definitely did as well. That is something else. So now we see a4 plus, a6 minus, and then just white dropping. $11 flats for white. 11 flats for black. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's spotting that move, that a4 minus move that put him ahead, was something I don't know that I would have ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, he spent what do we say? I don't know if we counted, but
Something like
it
8
was
minutes on
minutes
that
on
move.
that move. Yeah. Yeah, like 8 minutes on that move.
But he first had to get himself there with that e6 play that seemed like a blunder. Because he seemed like he was in
Yeah.
so much control of that game, and that felt like way wrong. But maybe it was his plan all along. I don't think so, but maybe
Yeah, that play around the top of the board was odd there for a minute.
it certainly was. But he was able to save it.
I
That's
wonder if we
wild.
look back to where we were thinking that B2 over, that was a while ago. Instead of because the B6 placement by black was very odd around turn 32. I
Yeah.
wonder if B2 over would have led to a black win or not.
Yep. Now white's threatening a road. Black's got to stop that.
And whatever they stop it with
White just drops
just
a wall or
doesn't
drops a flat
does
and
not
wins.
gain. Yep, yep. Whatever they stop it with does not gain them enough of anything. No flat count gains there.
Nope. That's crazy. That was some really high quality play at the end. Seeing that
That's
a4
why you need the
minus
extra
was
time
wild.
there.
Yeah. And that's why being able to see that a4 minus sequence is just so wild to me. And I guess that's why Alion is TAC champion. right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Being able to spot those moves that can save what seemed like a 100% lost position is just absolutely wild. It's incredible.
Yeah. Very good games.
Yeah, this was a solid game played by both guys. Both players played phenomenally well. Um, yeah, this was a really good game, and I'm really surprised that Alien was able to come out there after what it looked so lost. I'm not surprised at the outcome from the outset because I Alien was the clear favorite in this game, but with where they were positionally, it just seemed like he was toast. But really, really well played here to alion02 and to both players. But congratulations to alion02 for winning this semifinals Dragon Cup match and moving on to the finals against Abyss. And again, well played to both Will and Alion. This was a fantastic game. And I can't wait to see what the finals will bring with Abyss and Alion. They had some really amazing games in the TAC Championship tournament last year, and they had to go all the way to having a tiebreaker match because they kept splitting all of their games. So it'll be really interesting to see how this Dragon Cup match comes out and see if Abyss can take it on this game or if Alion will take the Dragon Cup as well as the tag championship. Whoever wins this tournament will get the Dragon title and role in the Discord server, in addition to maybe something else. I don't know. But at least the Dragon role, which is pretty fun and exciting. So that's nice. But yeah, that's it. That's all. So thank you for joining me here in the commentary box here, Bill.
Yeah. We'll have to do it again. I don't know that I've live commentated a game since like 2017.
It's been a while for sure. It's been a while. That was fun, and while it wasn't exactly live commentary, it was close enough. Uh,
Yeah.
it was essentially the same thing. But yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of TAC resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here on playtac.com or asynchronously through the Discord server itself. You can play just one move a day if you want to. So get out there and check that out. And until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.